right, I'm gonna make this real short, real simple, real sweet. This new Resident Evil Netflix original series about the Wesker kids, not the Wesker children, because as the real Resident Evil fans know, the Wesker children include, but are not limited to, Albert and Alex Wesker. Not anybody else who's going to be in this thing. So, this new Netflix original series about Wesker kids, except no, they're not kids. They're like teenagers, so they can get into teenage angst things. First of all, gross and disgusting. Stop doing that. How about you stop? Second, there's so many. I'm going to keep going, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep on, and I don't care if it jumbles and rounds. You're just going to have to keep up. If you have not seen my video about this, because they didn't even talk about who they picked for whatever before, there's a reason why they're doing this now. And I already talked about this before. Those are two separate things I've talked about before. The first one, link is in the description to the RE playlist, as well as the video about this whole thing that I already had my first opinions and first thoughts about. What on earth is this plot? Now, I didn't say anything about who was in it because, like I said, they didn't talk about it before. The only cast we know about is the cast from this other thing they're doing, the reboot. And I also already discussed that. Link is in the description for the Resident Evil playlist, which it's on. So just navigate that and you'll see it. Honestly, let's talk about the plot. Let's talk about the plot first before we get into who they chose and why it's a bad thing. I'm just going to do this real quick because I already talked about the plot. It's trash. It's garbage. No Resident Evil fan, no Resident Evil real fan. And if you get offended about real fan and not fan, you're not a real fan then. Like, honestly, if someone says, oh, you got to be a real fan of Kingdom Hearts, I'm not going to cringe and quinge and cry because someone said that like out in the open without speaking directly to me. I didn't name anybody, so don't get upset. If you get upset, you're not a real fan. As I was saying, the real fans don't want this new Raccoon City. First of all, like I said in that video, it got nuked. If they just so happen to erect a new Raccoon City on a place where there should be a lot of radioactivity and whatnot, or whatever, I don't know if it's that. I could care less if you guys want to go into the deep dive of, oh, well, it's not radioactive or whatever. It's just a bomb or whatever, okay? Let's just say it's not radioactive there and everyone's fine to go there and we're not going to become freaking Hulk and Spider-Man mixed together. We go. They erect another city. Explain to me how there are secrets to uncover. Why would they place back the secrets that got blown up? Why would they do that? But okay. So Wesker, who I do believe is either bisexual or gay, has 10,000 kids now and he's taking care of them. Excuse me? What? Does that sound like something that y'all want to watch? There are literally, I cannot stand for the life of me Resident Evil 6. But Resident Evil 6 premise and everything about it is better than this crap that they're crapping out. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. Like, it's really terrible. It's surprisingly terrible. You guys will never cease to amaze me. You're wasting all this money. Feed poor people on the streets. Feed veterans. Y'all love to talk about how much you love veterans and whatnot. Do something about people who are on the streets. Poor. Stop making these shows and movies that are just have no passion behind it. And wasting this money. You're wasting it. You're just wasting it. Give it to people to go to college. Since you guys want college degrees so bad from people, give them money to go to college. So, yes, the premise is terrible. If you want me to go deeper into that, like I said, link is in the description of my part 1 for this, okay? Now, speaking of the plot, that leads me into the casting. The reason why they decided to make Albert Wesker black and his kids ambiguous and one brown skin, not dark skin. He's dark skin. You know, if I ever say dark skin, light skin, middle skin, brown skin, he's dark skin. So just think of someone who's like his skin tone. There is usually never any black women his skin tone. Black men get to exist and coexist in spaces and get a lot of money i.e. Marvel. It doesn't have to be Black Panther. There's tons of dark-skinned Black men in the cinematic universe that they've used, but not a lot of dark-skinned Black women. Not. And even among them, even as dark as he is, they all have to be ambiguous or very light-skinned for some reason. But that's just part of the pie. This is just a sliver of the pie. This is just the reason why they're using this. They're using him and every woman who's going to get tons of hate. Here's an example. iCarly. The moment iCarly came out and they saw 2 Black people on there, and she's a little dark skinned, like I'll admit, but guess what? They love to throw people under the bus. Hollywood loves to throw us, Black people, Black women, under the bus. Ethnic people, Asian people, Hispanic people, but it's just our turn to be thrown under the bus right now. And they're throwing that girl under the bus, and she got a lot of hate for being on iCarly. Why'd you accept the role? Da 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 da. Why are you here? Why are you replacing Sam? You got Sam fired. Like, excuse me? Honestly, you need to calm down with your racism, honestly. She didn't replace Sam. They're not saying that's Sam. I would have an issue, but I would not, tarnish her whole life just because she accepted a role for Sam. I would be upset because, of course, I personally wouldn't want to accept a role where I would be belittled and destroyed and we're already going to be that way, just picking a role that would be great for us. But they are doing Anne Boleyn. They're doing this whole thing. They throwing Anne Boleyn under the bus. Not only is she one of the least liked of King Henry VIII's wives because she was the original mistress into his relationship, the very first one with Catherine of Aragon, for all the history buffs out there. They're going to make her Black. So they can blame the lack of success of the show/movies on us. Honestly, are you serious? Honestly, really? She's not Black. We don't need her to be Black. I didn't ask for her to be Black. No one asked for Albert Wesker to be Black. Don't blame Black people. Because I'm telling you 100%, no amount of money he's getting for this role is worth everything that he's getting for this role. Not the publicity, not the clicks, nothing he's getting will equate to all the hate and disrespect he's getting. There are some people who are saying, oh, this is fine. But there are some people that I've noticed are saying it's fine specifically. I look in their profile on Twitter and they don't even talk about Resident Evil. They're just doing this literally when people talk about, oh, you're just trying to pander and virtue signal. This is a virtue signaling moment when things like this happen. And I'm not saying, okay, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to like it or do you not? Well, no, I'm saying it's pretty interesting that people who don't know anything about Resident Evil are talking about how great it is that he's in the role. I have a problem with him taking the role, but I'm not going to treat him horribly and say horrible things about his character, his life, his whole situation, because I don't want Albert Wesker to be Black. I just know for a fact that that's not the biggest problem with this project. The biggest problem is the fact that they're saying this isn't canonical. So, okay, first of all, if it's not canonical, if it has nothing to do with Resident Evil storyline, why on earth are you making it? Why are you taking Resident Evil's name, just as Capcom is using Resident Evil's name, and just making random crap? Why are you doing that? Why are you making random crap? Because you see Capcom, oh, if Capcom can do it, then we can do it. I guess so, because you guys are allowing it and you guys are wasting all this money. Honestly, you are wasting money on this project. You are wasting money. And also, like I said, no amount of money, these people who are playing these Black characters and ambiguously Black characters and light-skinned characters are getting enough money for the amount of hatred and pure evilness that they're getting from taking these roles and getting paid for it. Honestly, you do you, honestly. Honestly, that's my opinion about that situation. I'm going to have a personal opinion about whether I think somebody should be in a role or not. But I can't stand, here's an example, I can't stand that dude, I really can't remember his name to save my life, who played Javier in The Walking Dead, New Frontier. He was great in that. When I saw Carlos, I was like, okay, he kind of sounds similar to Javier, but yeah, that's the same voice actor, whatever. And then he's Chris, and he sounds the exact same as all three of those characters sound the exact same. I can't stand that. But what I'm not doing is I'm not harassing him. I'm not calling him out his whole life. I'm not calling him subhuman. Speaking of subhuman, let me talk about some crap that I saw on Twitter, people playing games. So come to find out, some of you Wesker stans only stan Wesker solely because you think he's similar to a Nazi. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting. Because never ever in his life did he say he was racist. People are going to argue with me and be like, oh, he's into eugenics. He's not into eugenics in the way Hitler was, you dumb idiots. If Sheva got the Uroboros and she became some strong monster, he would go on his knees and ask her to marry him. He's not racist the way that he didn't look at the world that we do. He literally hated the way that humans were. He wanted superior humans. He wanted humans that didn't think on this binary plane. Ironically, I do believe that he may have been gay or bisexual. And they could have literally used this show to show that, and maybe they will. But guess what? No one's going to see it because they made Wesker black. And that's the big thing. That's the biggest thing on Earth. This is a sidebar. Biggest thing on Earth is they throw us under the bus so that everyone's pointing at us black people. Oh, look at you blackies trying to replace us. Like, honestly, really? We're not getting as much money as these stupid people at the top, executive producers, Anglo-Saxons of the Caucasus Mountains are getting. I promise you, you go to the end of this rainbow and it's not going to be a black person. You go to the end of this rainbow, it's not going to be an Asian person or a Hispanic person. It's not going to be anyone of any skin tone. It's going to be some old crusty geezer, some old haggard, disgusting geezer, or his son or his grandson. Speaking of lineage, if you guys want to stand somebody who is close to Nazism, why don't you stand Alfred Ashford and the Ashfords? Because supposedly, according to the people who made Resident Evil Code Veronica, the original plot device they were going to use with the Ashford family was that they were escaped Nazis, and that's why they had all this war memorabilia everywhere, and they would talk about eugenics. They actually talked about eugenics. Alexander Ashford felt like he was inferior to his kids, and it's just, there's this whole thing. It's disgusting. They show how disgusting it is, how disgusting eugenics is, because guess what? They failed. Alexia Ashford called Claire inferior to her. But yet, who died? Who died and who lived? Who was the inferior one, honestly? It shows how stupid eugenics is. It shows you can be inbred and be a scrub. Like, they show how scrubbalicious the Ashford family was because they all got blown to pieces and died. But honestly, if you want your white knight, if you want some person who stands racism, why don't you stand those twins, right? They're dead, so you can do that if you like. Wesker is also canonically dead, but honestly, I don't believe that to be true. I think he's still alive somewhere. But honestly, that's what I had to say about this. That's what I had to say about all this. Stop trying to make people, like, don't say that Albert Wesker is a part of your fantasy league of racists, okay? He's not one of them. He believed in superior genetics. Like, you can say that, but guess what? There's nothing that's been written in any document that proves Albert Wesker was racist. It's just not true. However, there is evidence to back up the inspiration that they were going for when it came to the Ashfords and comparing them to Nazis. If you look literally around their house, like, literally, honestly, like, there were no symbols that I could see, but most definitely there is evidence to prove that they believed in eugenics in the way that racists do. But yeah, I just had to talk about it because honestly, getting on my nerves. Just want to put that out there for everybody. The biggest problem with this whole project, like, I'm going to reiterate, is not the fact that Albert Wesker is black. I don't like it because guess what? Even if he could bring something to the table, no one is going to give it a chance, or they're going for the whole black outrage thing where they get white people to be mad at us and then we're mad at them. And then eventually, regardless, we end up both black people and white people watching this crap. So that's what they're going for, just to let you guys know. So it's going to be horrible either way for me. For me, it's going to be horrible either way. It's not going to be horrible either way for white people. One way for them to not lose anything in this situation is to not watch the show. There's plenty of Resident Evil stuff out there that has nothing to do with this one project. But with me, my people, old dude that's playing Albert Wesker and the kids, they aren't going to get the notoriety for being in this. They're not going to get awards for this show. They're not going to be nominated for anything. It's just super annoying. Putting us under the bus like Anne Boleyn so that people can be mad at us when no black person's getting any monetary compensation for all the crap they have to go through just to play a role, when white people can be anything they want to be. I think it's pretty interesting that people love to talk about how race doesn't matter until somebody's a different ethnicity other than Anglo-Saxon. Dude can play The Last Samurai where everybody's Asian around him, but he is Anglo-Saxon. But if a black man were to play the same role, there would be more outrage. That's when you have to look inside yourself and wonder, why are you really upset about this? Is it because it doesn't fit canon? Or is it because if it was switched and it was a black person that was originally the character and it was a white person, would you care? Would you care? I'm going to leave you with that. The next part will be my review on it, because I really did not want to talk about this. And I feel like the more I see about this dude and the more hate I see going to him and the kids, I'm just like, y'all are setting us up. You're setting women up, all those girls that are on the show. You're setting him up. I'm done.